Professor, I have a question for you.
Yes, what is it?
Professor, why do we have to take this Psychology 411 class on the history of psychology? It sounds like a total waste of my time. What can I learn from studies things that happened a long time ago?
Well, it may seem that way, but many psychology departments believe this course to be important, because courses about the history of psychology have been offered since at least 1911, and they are currently offered in about 2 out of every 3 undergraduate psychology programs. So, it is a pretty common thing to be required to take a class like this.
Oh, I see. But just because other colleges require it, why should we?
That's a good point. One reason why history is so important is because studying the evolution of psychological theories will help you understand contemporary psychology better. Also, current-day psychology has become so fragmented that sometimes it seems our history is perhaps the one thing that unites us.
Really, Professor? I didn't know that.
And did you know that other sciences typically do not offer such a course? So, psychology is different in that way. Psychology is also unique in that it can be considered both one of the oldest fields of study and one of the newest.
How is that possible to be one of the oldest and newest at the same time?
Well, it can be considered one of the oldest because its subject matter, the mind, can be traced back to the Greek philosophers in the 5th century BC. On the other hand, we can also view psychology as being only about 200 years old, if we mark our beginnings with the merging of physiology and philosophy. In the 19th century, psychologists began to use the tools of natural science to investigate human nature. So in that way it is a relatively young field.
I never thought of it that way.
And this course merges 2 distinct disciplines, history and psychology. The methods used to study history, broadly termed historiography, are quite different than those of science. History cannot be replicated, but is instead constructed from the scraps of information found and interpreted by the historian. And historical data can be incomplete and incorrect for a variety of reasons.
Like what?
Well, some data have become lost. For example, John Watson burned his letters, research notes, and unpublished manuscripts before he died. So some of what we know about him now had to be put together from other sources.
He destroyed his papers? But why?
Well, we don't know for sure. In other cases, data have been found after having been lost, such as when some papers written by Hermann Ebbinghaus were found in 1984.
Really? What were they about?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. You will have to wait for class to learn that. Other times, information is purposefully withheld in order to protect the reputation of an individual, such as when Freud's biographer, Ernest Jones, purposefully downplayed Freud's cocaine use. And sometimes data will be made available at a later time. For example, did you know that the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. is holding papers and letters from Freud's estate, with instructions not to release them until a certain time?
No, I didn't. That is fascinating.
And other times information is mistranslated, which can cause errors. Did you know that Freud's original systems of personality were translated into id, ego, and superego? Well, some say a better translation of these ideas from their original German might be it, I, and above I.
That is interesting.
Likewise, Freud's idea translated as free association may be more accurately translated into something that conveys the idea of an invasion or intrusion of thought. We also now know from many studies that the accuracy of memory is sometimes questionable at best. Often we use self-reports from famous people. For example, in his autobiography, B.F. Skinner portrayed his graduate student days as being filled with nothing but work. But graduate student colleagues of Skinner remember not only his studiousness but his ping-pong abilities as well, based on his many hours playing the game. So, perhaps his memory was not quite accurate.
Really? So maybe Skinner was almost normal then?
Yes, that is possible that he was almost normal. Contemporary events in history have also shaped psychology as a discipline. Every age has an intellectual climate or spirit of the times. In the early years of the 20th century, economic forces provided psychologists with an opportunity. While a glut of professional psychologists flooded the market, Psychology departments in universities remained largely underfunded. At the same time, there was a great influx of immigrants, which caused a swelling in public school enrollment. Psychologists were drawn to apply psychology to solve a number of education-related issues.
Wow, Professor, this is sounding more interesting all the time.
I am glad you feel that way. But this is just the very beginning. Will I see you in class then?
Definitely. I cannot wait.